All right, joining us tonight is a legend of the ring, former WWE and WCW superstar Paul Roma. Paul, thank you so much. Welcome to the show.
Good to be on your show, man.
Now, before we get into it, Saturday, January 27th, Icons of Wrestling in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. You will be appearing with our friends Captain's Corner for Icons of Wrestling. What do you have to say to all the fans that are coming out to see you on January 27th?
Well, I look forward to it. I haven't been to Philadelphia quite some time now, and was always one of my favorites. Now I know that it was the Spectrum back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
Not even sure what they call it now, but it'd be nice to see some people.
Definitely. And for everybody finding out more information on that, please head on over to our friend's page at facebook.com/Captain's Corner. That's CAPTINS Corner. Now, Paul, you debuted in 1984 right in our backyard in Poughkeepsie, New York on a WWF All-American Wrestling taping. Do you have any fond memories of Poughkeepsie? Because I know they definitely used to do a ton of tapings up here.
No, not too many. It's where everything pretty much started, TV, tapings, as you said. And, I was there, green,
Mm-hmm.
learning the trade, so to speak. And, I just went about my business. So, I don't know about, fond memories, but, what I can recall, it was just the beginning.
Sure. Now, a lot of people remember you from two tag teams, the Young Stallions and Power and Glory. Did you have any personal favorite, or which team was your favorite of working with, or did you like singles wrestling more better?
I really enjoyed tag teaming. Power and Glory was probably my favorite. Pretty wonderful, after that.
That's right.
Everything depends on your partner, and how well you get along and how well you can gel, with, that team.
Mm-hmm.
I did enjoy singles, but not nearly as much as, when I got into the tag team.
Sure. Now, two of your tag team partners, Jim Powers and Hercules Hernandez, did you guys get along with each other? Because, you guys are usually on the road with each other for a long time. Does it come to the point where, it's, I don't know, I know with my brother or some of my friends, when you start living with them and start rooming with them, after a while they kind of annoy you. Did you ever have any of that, or was it always, I don't know, smooth sailing?
No, I didn't have that with Hercules. It was always, we had a great understanding, man. We had a really good relationship, in and out of the ring.
Mm-hmm.
It was, there were times when we would not room together, just to break it up. But other than that, we roomed all the time. We trained every day. It was, again, it was a bond.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think there were many tag teams that can say they had the bond that we had, or the understanding that we had, the chemistry that we had.
Sure. And going back a little bit, too, you're talking about training and just getting into the business. I hope I don't butcher his name, but you were trained by Tony Altomare? Is that right?
Well, in the beginning, I was trained by Tony Altomare, yeah.
Yep.
That was the very beginning. That was kind of like, the basics. Show this guy what to do. Let's send him up to TV. Looks good, and let's let our guys beat them and make them look that much better. And then I was, taken by Mr. Fuji,
Mm-hmm.
and things changed. He made me understand ring psychology, and he was teaching me it anyway, and everything else, how to put things together, and better understanding of what wrestling was all about, because I never watched it, so I didn't know anything about it. And next thing you know, I was doing it. But yeah, it really makes a difference when you have a really good teacher,
Mm-hmm.
that just doesn't teach you, moves. They make you understand, why and when to use them and, tell a story in the ring. So, that was Fuji. She was phenomenal.
Sure. A lot of people, right, today they see, what WWE's doing with their performance center and stuff like that. Back then, how you were trained, was it more of a lengthy process, if you will? I mean, how long would you say, like training is before you get in that ring, before you have your match compared to today maybe? Is it kind of rushed today as compared to when you were training growing up?
Man, that's tough. Man, that's it's not it really depends on the individual first and foremost. How fast they get it. Number one. The other thing is, it's different now. They don't have the TV taping, so to speak, like we had. So let's say, we bring you into the ring and you wrestle, Mr. Perfect. And you get to show a little bit of what you got. I don't think it's like that anymore. Yeah. So it's totally changed.
Definitely. Now, one of the stories I kind of relates to this with injuries and whatnot, but back then I read WrestleMania 7, Power and Glory had a quick loss to LOD, and I understand that it was kind of your idea because of an elbow injury that you were suffering. But how bad was it back then having to wrestle injured compared to today? Because, I mean, they have a lot of restrictions today. You bump your head, you get a concussion, you're out for a few months. Back then, I mean, you're probably just going to keep going. Was it it's just a different landscape back then, I guess, right? To where you were just having to wrestle injured?
Yeah, there were no guidelines. I mean, if you wrestled, you got paid. If you didn't wrestle, you didn't get paid. I was told by the doctors that if, I was to hit my elbow, I can lose my arm. Ray was hurt. He retore his groin the night before, so he had trouble getting out to the ring. So, Vince just told us, listen, can you give me a minute? Give me 60 seconds. I need you guys out there. Basically, I need to get Jenna Doom over, right? And I'm like, so we're like, fine. And that's what we did. So we went out there. I still have two arms today, and Ray was good enough to get thrown out of the ring. I don't know how much more he could have, tore his groin since he just, retort the night before. So we did what we had to do. I mean, as you said, now they have criterias, right? Yeah. But even after, prior to all their little, criterias that they have, their checks and balances, the last conversation I had with Vince in his office was basically, they don't make wrestlers today like they used to. Your guys today get a hangnail and they're out for 2 weeks. And here we went out there, busted up, concussions and just stitched together and put together, and guys taking pills so that they, painkillers so they can go back in the ring because, they want to get paid. They're trying to take care of their family. I get it. Mm-hmm. It's a different animal today. Is it safer today? Yeah, probably. Are they the same as, I'm not even going to mention his name. All I'm going to say is one of the top performers who is still working with the WWE today. Mm-hmm. We were talking to one another, and he was at one of my shows, and he said, they don't make them like they used to. And I said, hell no. He said, Paul, back in the day, we would have ate these guys alive, the WWE. And I said, yeah, man, they would have lasted with us. And it's true. Yep. Different make, different model.
That's right. Now, I believe Bret Hart once told you that Power and Glory was one of the best tag teams he's ever seen, and I have to agree with him. I honestly think you were probably one of the misused guys in wrestling at some points, just because I think you had it all, Paul. The look, the physique, man, but I have a question that goes along with my point here. A question from one of the fans is basically, were you ever tempted to go to a territory like World Class, Mid-South, or AWA for a bigger push around 85 or 86? Because, compared to how they were using you in the WWE?
Well, I was asked, actually, and I was going back to my room, and we were in the same town. It was Houston. We were in the same town as, I guess, NWA at that time. And I was in the hallway, and somebody approached me and for NWA and said, hey, you know, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, you know, I really like to stick with the WWF. And, you know, I was that person that didn't know that much about wrestling. Maybe if I was a Mark, you know, or I was this guy that followed it and I knew all about it and the going-ons, maybe, you know, I would have been a lot smarter before Fuji, you know, wrapped his hands around me and said, okay, dummy, here you go. This is it. So, you know, my loyalty was to the WWF at the time. That's just the way I was, you know, brought up, the way I was, you know, built, taught by my dad. So, you know, I gave it my all. But unbeknown to me, which obviously later on down the line, you figure all these things out and they, you know, they come to fruition for you. And you find out that, you know what, it doesn't matter how talented you are, how good you look, how your body is. If they want to give you the push, they give you the push. And again, I tell, you know, different interviews this, I had no other family members before me wrestling. So to get as far as I gotten, I'm pleased with it. Should I have gotten further? Yes, of course. You know, you just said it. Power and Glory, greatest tag team ever. And that comes from all different guys that were in the business at the time. You know, Mr. Perfect comes up to me and says, they should have gave you my gimmick. And I'm like, no, dude, it's fine. He goes, no, man, look at you. You're the Perfect, not me, you know. Same thing with Rick Martel. He comes like, oh, you should be the model, not Martel, you know. I'm like, dude, please. You know, I don't give a shit. Don't start trouble, man. Leave it be.
Yep.
You know, I could care less, you know.
Sure.
But again, this is what Vince wanted, and Vince does what he wants. I get it.
Sure.
It's fine. I get it, you know.
Sure.
I did what I could do. I got as far as I could. I was allowed to wrestle in the WrestleManias, the Survivor Series, you know. They allowed us to win all that. The only team to make it all the way through with all their members. You know, I mean, I'm in the encyclopedia, highest drop kick ever. You know, again, it's a work. You know, that isn't. I mean, you know, I jump 8 feet in the air. I jump 8 feet in the air. It is what it is. But everything else is, you know, what they allow you to have. Right?
Yep.
I mean, if you know, if Undertaker doesn't want me to beat him, I don't beat him. If I don't want him to beat me, he doesn't beat me. You know, it was great. The guys that were back then were phenomenal. They were all tough, but they all had respect for each other. You know, they got it because either one could have kicked the shit out of either one at any time.
Sure.
You know, I mean, it's just how it was.
Yeah.
So you know what, I'm pleased for what I did. I have no complaints, and the people that knock me, they couldn't walk 3 hours in my shoes. So they could sit there on their sofa and say what they want.
Sure.
But it doesn't affect me in any way, shape, or form.
Awesome. Well, you know, also, you know, you were a part of WCW too. We're kind of, I guess you could say, you found a little bit maybe more success in WCW. You were part of the Four Horsemen briefly. You even won the tag team championship with Arn Anderson. Did you like your time in WCW compared to WWE? Was it, you know, apples to oranges, or I don't know? Was there just a different place?
Well, I mean, it was a little less stressful in the locker room, you know, with WCW than WWF. So that's always a plus. You never knew where you were going in WCW because they just, their storylines were just all over the place. You know, 1 minute you're walking, you know, you have the belts in your hand, and the next minute you say, hey, leave them here, you know, and go out and film for TV. I'm like, what are you talking about? Well, you're going to lose them. Or you've already lost them. So now this is for like 3 weeks down the road. Like, well, when are you going to tell us? Now that we're walking out? I mean, you know, yep. Vince did a little more, you know, as far as building somebody, making them strong, WCW didn't. They flipped left and right, every other day. 1 minute you're tagging, next minute you're turning on your partner. There was no rhyme or reason. So, but it was, like I said, less stressful, which makes life a lot easier, right?
Sure. And now, today, alongside fellow wrestlers Mario Mancini, Dave Paradise, you guys are running a wrestling training school in East Haven, Connecticut. Can you tell the fans out there a little bit about that?
Yeah, we have a great school. We are old school. When I say that, I mean I teach old school. Probably one of the only schools that teaches ring psychology, which is very important because that is the business. At least back in my day, it was the business. We are probably Paradise Alley Professional Wrestling, PAPW, is probably the closest to the WWE that you'll get. When you talk independent, we are not this independent where these kids go out and they run around, they slap everybody's hands. There's no rhyme or reason for what they're doing. They're throwing stuff at the crowd. They get into fights with the crowd. There's none of that. I mean, we are, as old school as it gets. One of my guys is actually has an opportunity with WWE, which is a beautiful thing. Lucha Underground is looking at my guys, which are a beautiful thing. But again, when my guys go somewhere, my students, they stand out. Mm-hmm. Whether they wrestle for the Samoans in Pennsylvania or wherever they go, they stand out. And, they're like, man, like, who taught you? And they're like, Paul Roma. That makes sense. Yeah, because, I'm giving them what Fuji gave me, the best that I can with, the knowledge that I have. And not only that, our storylines is everything that I've ever listened to Vince talk to me about and how it works. So, you know what? It's working. We got a great fan base. I got a lot of people backing, coming to see my students. So, East Haven, PAPW, rock on.
There you go. Well, Paul, I could probably talk to you for hours, but I thank you so much for joining us today. Once again, Saturday, January 27th, the Icons Wrestling Show in Philadelphia, PA. Come out, meet Paul Roma with Captain's Corner. Paul, thank you so much for your time today.